In this episode of BYTECAMP, we invited Frances Ong and Baterna to talk about their experiences in freelancing. If you want to learn more about their personal journey, technical advice about freelancing, specifically in the UX research and design space, and college tips in general, then keep on listening. So hello, and welcome to BYTECAMP, Byte's first podcast with this year's theme being Activating Potential. I am Luis Quintos, and I am joined with
Brady Lau, one of your fellow hosts for this year's BYTECAMP. And to all Byte members and non-members alike, we invite you to activate your potential in the different and exciting spaces of tech.
That's right. We will be focusing on simple and actionable steps that can lead you to the path you wish to pursue. And for today's episode, our topic will be freelancing in the tech space.
Yes, and for today's episode, we actually invited Baterna and Ses Ong to share with us their experiences when it comes to freelancing.
Okay, so we can start now. So, hello, Ses and Polly. Thank you very much for joining us today. So, and before we start, we just wanted to ask you the most important question for tonight. So, how are you doing today? Maybe we can start with Ses.
All right. How am I doing today? I'm doing all right. I'm doing great. Just came off of work and thank God there was no school today, so I got to rest. So I'm doing great today.
As it should, sobrang deserve. Like, excited na with the long weekend and everything.
Yes.
Deserve. Ikaw naman, Polly, how are you doing today?
I slept in a bit, so just so you know. Had my day job, went to a couple of meetings, mostly rested today because I did my academics last Tuesday. So I'm actually surprised with myself on that one. Slept a bit more and now I'm here.
She said time management. Go, girl.
Yeah, before anything else, can you guys introduce yourselves to our listeners so that they can get to know you more? Just a brief background of yourselves, something like that. So maybe Paul, you could go first.
Okay, so hi, I'm Polly, fourth year BS IT Entrepreneurship. Currently I work as a product designer at AcadArena Technologies. But I do freelance work and actually work in general related to UX research and product design. Also the chief product officer of Murch. So yeah, hello.
Okay, cool. We've actually done an interview with the founder of AcadArena before. I forgot his name, but pretty cool guy. Justin B. Is it? Starts with a B, right?
Manusing. Yeah,
Justin
Madu.
B. Manusing.
Yeah, bro. Yeah, it was a very insightful session with him. Cool guy. So how about you, Ses?
All right. So I am Frances Ong, but you can call me Ses. So I'm also from 4 BS IT Entrepreneurship, but I have a specialization in marketing. I'm currently a UX research assistant at Kumu, and I'm also the co-founder and chief marketing officer of Murch. So yes, I also do graphic design and UX design freelance work on the side. So yeah.
Wow, that's a lot. Buti naman kaya pa rin. You're even taking up another.
Sana nababalance mo pa siya with ACADS.
Yeah.
Yes.
Let's go. Stay strong. We're almost there.
Yeah.
Okay, so we got to know both our guests. Now, actually, I have a curious question for the guests muna before we go back. So have you guys worked together na? How long have you known each other? Do you have history ba? Do you guys work together in a way? In college, ganon?
Yeah, since first year.
Since first year.
You've just been glued to the hip the whole time.
Yeah,
whether or not Ses would like it. Yeah, oh gosh, before the thesis season started coming in, I really signed a contract that I will never have a thesis group with anyone that doesn't have SES. I really have it. Like, SES has a copy of it somewhere.
Yeah, I have a copy. It's like, it's signed. Like,
Nakalista
signed
na
it.
siya.
I was like,
I signed
legit,
it. I
guess.
was like, SES, I am devoted to you. But yeah, we've been working since
Nice.
first year on like school stuff, and we are actually on like a freelance agency together right now also. So
Okay, so thank you for that, and sana yung kontrata nyo di pa nawawala. Sana no one cheats on each other, ganon. So, all right, now that we already know our guests for this episode's podcast, we can now get into today's topic, which is freelancing. And I'm very curious to know how did you get yourself into freelancing? Like, what made you pursue this type of work? And maybe we can go start with Polly.
I mean, with freelancing, it first came up as an opportunity, like, offered by someone. It was actually okay. Backtrack on that, because one of my first orgs at Ateneo is User Experience Society, and as like some people would know, in New York Society, they have client works basically for different different kinds of clients. So I was HR at the time, and basically I got my first taste of like client work as a UX researcher there with a couple of clients, and I realized that it's something I kind of want to do. So the next time I got into freelance work was already a couple of months into my first internship, which was Kumu, and I basically said I kind of want to work on more stuff on the side, and it happened to be an opportunity by Sir Jovan that he wanted to refer to us about. It was like it was the e-commerce. It was the e-commerce platform. Yeah, so that was like our first one. I would say it was also like our biggest learning moments. But it was basically born from me telling myself, oh, I want to learn more. I want to work with other people, and I also want to earn more money like on the side, because I have I wouldn't say I had free time, but I wanted more money enough to say, oh, I have time.
How about you, Sess? Like, what kung si Polly, like, she wanted more offers and to get connected with more people? Like, what made you start freelancing naman?
For me naman, it would be like getting experience. So, guess context, backtrack. Also, I have a graphic design background, and that's what I've been doing since like freshie year. Like, I do org work, I do like branding work, things like that. And then my first taste into like, it was for UX. My first taste was in a class with Sir Joven also. And then we had to like build this like JSEC online type of thing. But like more stuff, because you had to actually code it.
Oh.
On steroids times 10 or something. And then that was the first time I guess I tasted like design work for tech in general, because I used to do graphic design work for theater. So it's like, theater tech.
For theater?
Yeah, theater. So it is so far, like the spectrum of art tech. Like who? So yeah, I wanted to just do more tech, because I'm an ITE. Like why not do tech? So yeah, like I started there, and I just like really started liking like UX in general. So I wanted to learn more. So I was like, I was super like not jealous, but I was like, oh dang, like sina Poly, sina Quick, oh they have like client work na. Like I would love to do that also. So yeah, my first what do you call this? Client work. That was what Polly mentioned, like an opportunity from Sir Joven. It was an e-commerce app on the for Nueva Ecija. So it was for like the Nueva Ecija vendors and shops to sell online, because it was like in the midst of the pandemic. So yeah, it was like a government thing.
E-commerce.
The government.
Yeah.
weird. So, yeah, we learned a lot through that. Yeah.
But like, how about, kayong dalawa, like, nagsabay na ba kayo ng freelancing work? Like, have you ever worked on the same project before? Ganun.
That one, like when you mentioned the e-commerce one, we worked on together. That was basically our first like
That was
freelance
like
work.
for,
Yeah, like that's like us, like outside UX society or something like that. So since then, we've been working on like a lot of freelance projects together, along with Siege, so Cedric Atienza. So often that we basically told ourselves, guys, you've been doing this, might as well get like set up our own design agency and just make it legit, like for real. So
So hanggang
yeah,
freelancing, may kontrata pa rin kayo.
yeah,
Kontrata pa rin yun sa
That's
freelancing.
how it works.
yeah. Now we're now legally bound.
Now it's legit.
For lifers.
But yeah, given nga na you guys have like a lot of experiences, even sa non-professional setting, no? I'm just really curious, like, what are some of the most memorable freelance projects that you have worked on? Like, what are the good and bad experiences that you've encountered so far? So maybe you could go first, Cess.
Oh, okay. Huh.
Take your time.
Like,
Take your time.
I wonder. Good and bad experiences. I won't say which, but like we had a project. It's like, and the timeline was like rush. Well, not rush. Well, there's a short timeline. So we had like two experiences with that. So one is like super rushed, like 1 week. Like 1 week freelance work. Like, mom, I'm scared for myself. My sanity. Where's she at?
Kaya ko pa
You
ba
know?
to?
Yeah.
Or may I
Yeah.
ask, like, what's the nature of the work? Like, ba't walang lead time binigay yung client? Or like, sadyang rushed lang talaga siya?
Oh, it just came up. Like, it was an opportunity that it was very trendy. So they were like, oh, we should, parang take this opportunity. And then they obviously needed like someone to build the website, things like that. So yeah, they just asked us. And then, yeah, I mean, we were willing to take it naman. Like, like there was like negotiations and things like that. So yeah, we were due to take it. And we did it. So, we're strong that way. we see.
So you're saying that's one of your bad experiences? Kasi since it's rushed.
Di naman siya bad. But it was an experience that was challenging. So it parang tested like the way we work, because we're usually
Like in such short amount of time.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was basically a hackathon or something.
Yeah. Which is like nothing new to us, I guess, for me and Polly. Like we've competed like in hackathons and designathons together, especially with Siege also. So from a short timeline, we kind of knew how to like, I guess, attack the task that we had on hand. So parang sorry, lack of a better term, I'm sorry. But yeah, like it was really parang it was challenging. We learned though, like parang, okay, so this is what we have to do. And we had to learn how to adjust to like everything. So parang if my delays, like how are we gonna take on that? Like if for us, like we're also taking on other projects, we have work, we have other client work. So parang, trying to balance that, plus, be sane at the same time.
Nagpapatong-patong na din siya.
Yeah.
Like ng work niyo.
It's like Jenga.
Challenging.
So even though you'd say na you've had better projects or like other experiences with other clients, right? Masasabi mong it's still a good experience kasi at the end of the day, parang you've learned something, right? How to parang balance or manage your time more wisely, ganun siguro, in some sense.
Yeah, I would say that. Like a lot of, like I guess, experiences, even if they might seem bad, like they're really like a avenue for like yourself to grow as a person, like that type of thing. Like there are learning curves, but like you still grow, whether that's like, mentally or emotionally or just skill wise.
Win or you learn. You win or you learn.
Yeah,
You win
yeah.
or you learn.
Right. Okay, that's great. So how about for you naman, Polly? What's like a good or bad experience that you've had yun nga sa your time as a freelancer?
Like thinking.
Yeah, fine, it's fine.
Yeah,
There's
okay.
no right or wrong
No right,
answers.
wrong. Like you can share anything you want.
um hmm.
Maybe just a memorable experience, ganun.
Yeah, a memorable experience. Yeah, I'd say like one of the first client works you worked on. So I can't really say the nature of the work. Let's just say that you're working with a lot of screens on a default. Like it's that kind of like that kind of app where off the bat you know it's gonna be a lot of screens. But we worked on it in a span of like 3 weeks, and that was like crazy. That was like crazy because we included research there also, and and we were basically we also had like ACADs and everything. So we were like working at like 12 midnight, 3 a.m. in the morning. I either every day or every other day, just to get things done. And it was like one of our first times working together. Like, and I wouldn't say it was bad, but as people would say, like you don't really forget like your first projects, like your first client works. Like you're always going to remember what you did wrong, not just like you know how you designed it or how you researched it, but like how you dealt with like the client or how much value you put on yourself. So I really felt like we undersold ourselves. I mean, yeah, sure, it was one of our first freelance projects, but like looking back at it, I really felt like it was worth a lot more than we pegged it for.
Mm-hmm.
But you couldn't have known back then, right? Because you didn't have like the experience and the exposure to the industry relative to what you have right now, no? So yeah, you couldn't have known. So
Yeah,
let's
and it's
just
also
say,
on a budget, like a
Like,
pre-known, a previously
kumbaga you
known
were
budget.
you were testing the waters muna with your first project ganon.
right, right.
Yeah, it was a learning experience for some of us at that time. Like it was their very first work. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, like for some of us, actually me included also, I felt like oh it's okay. It's like my first like capital F freelance project. So you know it's okay.
Capital
But then
F.
yeah. But like looking back, if I could ever tell the past version of me, I'd be like, girl, no.
Charge
I,
higher, like longer timeline. Like it was worth a lot more than what we like valued it at. So yeah, sayang, but
Like I wouldn't say I regret it, but I was like
yeah,
thinking back, like we could have done better if we pushed, if we really pushed for the right setup.
but then would you say na parang even though you didn't get like a lot of monetary value from that project, na it was like kasi you were starting out pa lang, diba? And you needed like
Mm,
like
mm-mm.
experience, diba? And would you say na you were parang valuing the experience more than the money that you'd be receiving back then, or you didn't think of that way before?
I think that's what we were doing. Like you were looking at it in the perspective of experience. If we don't have enough experience to negotiate for higher, so it's actually a gamble on their part to accept us as like the freelancers. But at the same time, it's also looking back and thinking, for the work that we did, we still should have tried because I don't think we really negotiated for it either.
Yeah.
For a better, like for even just like a better setup. Like if like at the end like the money wasn't, it's probably secondary for me. I would have just wanted a better setup in terms of timeline to do the work properly and to do the work sanely.
Yeah.
Fair enough, fair enough. And kasi you didn't have any leverage in back then, right? As you were saying, that was your first na experience, right, with the job.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think employers would the employers were taking a gamble na rin, as you were saying. So yeah, siguro that's why that it played out that way.
So ayun, like thank you for sharing your experience. Like ayun, after experiencing those sorry, wait, wala. Sorry. Okay, so like after experiencing those naman, like I'm just curious, like what if I want to start freelancing right now? Like you already mentioned that you were referred to your initial opportunities, but can you also give our listeners examples of the platforms that you've used to so that our viewers have an idea and know where to look and start out? Like how did you start out? What were the resources that you used in order to guide you in pursuing this freelancing opportunities, ganon?
Mhm.
Hmm. I guess for me, like I can't really say like I've used a platform because I actually haven't. Like it's really through referrals lang majority of the time. But I guess like based on like the ones I see online, like I think number one, like to get opportunities, maybe joining like different like online communities, Discord channels, things like that. Because I think there are really people who are maybe looking for maybe like a designer or a developer or things like that na they're sending out opportunities in those communities. So maybe look through those. Whether that's even like Ateneo's jobs and internships, like you could actually find some things there. And if you're like, if you're ITE, like you can look at Sergio Ben's like Facebook group. Like he shares some like internship or like freelance
Sergio
projects
Ben.
there. Yeah, Sergio Ben is the
The
goat.
real
Like
G.
like like
Sergio Ben.
he has a lot of like connections and a lot of people like looking for people like designers, developers, writers, things like that. So definitely maybe ask your professors, maybe they know someone who's looking for people. Then this last, if it's a platform, I think there's a platform called Swarm. So yeah, like they offer like freelance opportunities there as well. And then yeah, it's a startup. So you can just check out their like website and like apply, like sign up for the platform. So yeah, like they send like emails almost every week with a new opportunity. So if you wanna take it, then you can like meet like can coordinate with them. So yeah, I think those for me.
Yeah. For mine, I know people mention like, I mean, I haven't used a platform aside from I've used Swarm though, so I haven't taken on a project yet from them. There's Fiverr, there's also Upwork. Those are the ones I hear that other people make use of. For the large part, it was also like referrals or people within my own circles, or for example, an existing agency or who decides to who's looking to offload basically. When they don't have a bandwidth anymore for any other projects, they basically open it up to us, or they open up to me. Oh, maybe you want to take on this one on our behalf. And I've also been I basically contacted for freelance work also through LinkedIn. I'm not quite sure how they found me, but it's a really like a word of advice to really, I wouldn't say like be active on LinkedIn because I don't know, but just make sure it's. I mean, yeah, like, I mean, just make sure it's fully
So like
updated.
mostly ano
Yeah.
siya. Like sorry I cut you off. Like mostly like sariling sikap niyo siya, like naghahanap talaga ng opportunities, and minsan the
Yeah.
opportunities come to you guys.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Sometimes it's about finding like the right clients, and they're the ones gonna tell their friends, or they're the ones gonna come back like, oh, you want to do another one, or something like that. So it's just doing your best in whatever freelance work you currently have.
Tapos word of mouth, like referral
Yeah.
to you guys.
Mm-mm.
Yeah, those
Nice.
are great because at least there's like more or less an understanding already of like the quality of your work and the way
Mm-mm.
that they should operate.
Okay, but like I have another question. Like before, like you searched out for these opportunities, nga, no, using the platforms that you've mentioned. What
Mhm.
resources did you guys parang utilize in order for you to acquire the necessary skills? And would you say na parang the education you got from Ateneo was enough na for you to go venture out on yourselves and become freelancers?
Mhm. I can take this one first. The education at Ateneo, actually, I mean, it depends on how related your freelance work is to like your course. So for example, ours is like product design. In my case, specifically also UX research. Um, it wasn't exactly the curriculum because I went into the career before we had our UX class. But it's more or less the community also. So I joined the UX User Experience Society. That's basically my first step into UX design, UX research, so on and so forth. And then it's also through the community where I found my first internship. So it was through Byte. I forgot which one it was. But when they were posting like the jobs. Yeah. Like the Byte Summit when they posted about like open internships like Kumu, this other like design agency I interned for, which was Fieldwork Studio. That also kind of brought it in. But the education for the ITE curriculum definitely pushed it to, I won't say like another level, but really helped broaden the portfolio. So, you know, the thing where in your CV, put like your other skills and stuff, but also the UX class, for example, had us do a whole project. Those are really helpful. Yeah, so like more or less those, just really like orgs and maybe like some online courses also.
So I'm just curious lang, no? Kasi I've actually heard of like UX course that doesn't charge anything initially, and then they're gonna take a cut of your pay once you're working. Is that UX society, or like it's a different
Oh no, it's different.
Oh, it's
Yeah.
different.
Yeah, UX Society is an org. UX Society is like the org. So yeah, you just come in, you learn about UX, or you can like apply, let's say like to I forgot the roles, but like UX design or consultancy if you want to take on the client work that people come to UX Society for. Do not they take a cut, or basically you only pay when you get hired. That's UX University. So UX plus what? UX plus University.
Yeah.
Am I correct? Yeah. That's
Yeah.
like an entirely different one. It's not an Ateneo. It's like a whole other entity. Though we know like a couple of people who are there.
So like you guys had like prior experience na before you entered freelancing, right?
Yeah. Internships, right? It says.
Internships.
Like for me parang no. Like my portfolio was theater nga, right? So when I got in, it was purely theater. So parang medyo may disconnect. Like I think it shows naman na parang you're pretty good at design. You can do branding. You can do that. But in terms of like some UX, like the whole process of like, you know, from like understanding the problem, ideating, and then like acting on about that. Like I had no clue and I didn't have anything about it. So yun, parang that's why for me, like taking a client or a freelance project was like you know, just a risk. Like I was like, okay, yeah, just go for it. Like what's wrong? Like what else would happen, right? You know, just take a chance. Pero I think if like looking back then, I would have also like been more active in UX stuff. Like though I was a member ever since I was a freshie, but I'm only active like now. like now, like my fourth year. This is the only time when I got client work from UX Talk. Like that's how I became active na then. Because I guess yeah, parang like, I think UX Talk, in all honesty, I guess for us, like for product design and UX research, like it's a really good stepping stone if you're a full member and you actually work on client work. Exposure, I think that was like
portfolio.
Yeah, build that portfolio.
So like okay, we have two different. So one has portfolio and the other one doesn't have portfolio. So like who can be a freelancer? So does it require a lot of experience?
I wouldn't even say like a lot. Like just have like one or two. Yeah, just have like one or two to, you know, in your portfolio. Like write a case study would be best to start it off. So even if it's just like doing like one project based off like a Coursera course that has you do one, or even like even for example in the UX class you have to make a project as well with your group mates. Like use that, document it well, make a case study so at least you have something to show just to start things off, and just try to maximize the opportunities and the channels that you have. So if you have like an org, you can try to go into like UX stuff, let's say, or for example, talking to your teachers if they have like any like leads to like opportunities, or how they find like referrals or something like that. And looking at other platforms as well, but at least having one or two well documented works like designs for for product design and research is a good way to start.
So
Does
like
it
yung
even
pwede like
have-
as simple
sorry,
as
go
ano.
lang.
Ay, no, it's okay. So pwede as simple as like yung UX class, like you can use that that can be included in your portfolio already. Yung mga
Yeah.
ganon.
Yeah, I mean,
Yung
it's
output
still
pa ba?
addressing. Yeah, like even
Yeah.
I mean, even in, like development, you can still show as long as you did good work, obviously. And
Got
in the case of
it.
like in the case of like product design, doesn't really tackle an existing problem because you do go through like the whole process anyway. So it's still something that you could show.
So hypothetically, no. One of my org mate is an aspiring freelancer, but he is not confident with his skills yet. So from your perspective, guys, like what can he do? Like, or what should he do so that parang he can hone his skills to become more competent ganon in
Says
the world of freelancing, of course. Like
Yeah. I guess like mine would be like gain a bit more like experience lang. Like kahit konti. Like it doesn't have to be legit. Like, it doesn't have to be an internship. It doesn't have to be freelance work. It can be like an online course, like a Coursera course, or just like maybe like listening to podcasts or like or watching YouTube videos. Because there are really a lot of like resources like online for you to actually like what do you call this? Absorb like the knowledge for say whatever field you're getting into. Like for me, I just did a Coursera course. That's how I started. Like, and that was my first like portfolio thingy that I just ended up like putting on. Until now, it's still in my portfolio. Though I believe it's still ugly. I should remove it. Honestly.
Did you pay for the Coursera course?
No. Oh no. Okay. It is paid, but like when I took it kasi, like Ateneo had like the free
Oh, I
like,
remember
partnership thingy.
Oh.
Yeah. So parang it was like I like took up all like the opportunities. It's like I have like parang course mates who like took on like 10 the courses in a span of like the break, and then parang he learned a lot through that. 'Cause, like Ateneo has a lot of like opportunities or like a lot of resources. Kahit if you read like stuff from the library, like you can get a lot of things through that. Yeah.
Yeah, that Coursera doesn't anymore, right? Like they don't offer it anymore.
Doesn't offer
Parang no,
free
wala
courses
na.
anymore.
Yeah.
Start of the
Free.
pandemic. Start of
Maybe
pandemic,
the-
like ang dami nilang ino-offer eh.
yeah.
Yeah. Now it's like
Yeah, there's like it was like a Tasha or OBF, I think. I don't remember.
yeah.
But it was relatively like easy. I remember I made like a whole Google sheet of like about the course, a ton of resources, a ton of courses on like Coursera and other platforms if you're interested in like design. But I was like, start like the pandemic.
Yeah, that's how I started. I got it from
Like-
her like spreadsheet.
A lot of people got from my spreadsheet. Also Siege got from my spreadsheet, like his very first freelance, like his very first UX UI course from like Future Learn. But like to answer like the question, if you're not confident, get yourself a mentor. That can be your prof, that can be your friend who is more experienced in freelance, or I can just be like an industry person that you look up to. Like just go ahead and get yourself a mentor, because honestly there's no one who can give you the enough confidence or like the enough honesty to tell you where you're lacking or what you should try to grow into, and just what things to watch out for than a mentor.
So in your space talaga, no, sa freelancing, like UX stuff, right? Parang it seems like you need to rely on your like community or something for yun nga, for upskilling and work referrals and other things, no? So it's very important to have like a solid community that you surround yourself with, no?
Yeah, definitely. If it's not in Ateneo, let's say like UX Society, there's definitely a community out there in the Philippines. Like let's say like Algo Philippines. I don't know if they're still active. I'm pretty sure they are. There's also like UX UX PH if you're interested in
Mhm.
UX. There's just like a lot of like communities out there you can dip your toes in. We're super G to answer your questions about like freelance.
Okay, that's actually nice. Yung barriers to entry it's not that high, and there are actually people out there that's willing to share this.
And mas maganda din, like, you're asking people opinions. Like, especially to your close relationships, because you'd rather take the honest opinion from them and para ma-improve yung work nyo, di ba? Kesa naman sa they're going to say something that won't help you in the long run.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, like, in terms of your relationships naman with your clients, like, how do you create or set your contracts with a particular person or organization? Like, did you ever had any complications with the people you're trying to work with?
I mean, it depends on the client, honestly. Especially if you're working, let's say, like with like a government client or more or less like a big corpo, for example, they might already have like their kinds of contracts. And into setting like the brief and like the scope, usually they just tell us first what's like an overview of like what your goal is, like what kind of website are you trying to do, what kind of like what type of website, like is it like an e-commerce, is it like a info site or something like that. So at least for us we have like kind of a mode of thinking in terms of like what kind of questions you want to ask. So for example, if an info site, it's like, oh, what do you want people to see, what are the information that people usually look for, as compared to e-commerce where it's going to be more focused on like what kind of products or what kind of marketplace is it positioning itself as, or like what's its like I don't know the word, like what's its prime value basically compared to like other places, let's say. So they just tell us a bit about that at first, and then we already have like a template of like a client brief, and notes for minutes, and we have like a call with them just to go over a bit more clearly a set of questions on like what they envision the site to be like. Do they have any pegs in mind? What's the scope? What kind of pages are we expecting? What are their objectives? And what do they hope to accomplish with like the platform? So the important part of like those kinds of calls is also asking them what kind of support can they offer. So it's not just like being paid or anything, but like how, like, will it be easy? Will you make it easier for us to get participants for research or like disability testing? Will it be inclusive in the pay if you're gonna use any certain kinds of programs or something like that to accomplish certain tasks? So you just have to make sure you have a complete set of list of generally what you ask clients, but also have a set of questions that's a bit more specific to based on what they kind of overviewed you in. So there will be times where they go off scope or they start adding things on after the brief, but you have to learn to put your foot down. So it can just, oh, we'll probably have to revisit the scope. This isn't really part, or this is going. If you're to include this, it'd be a separate project and thus a separate billing entirely, just to keep like your sanity.
So, like, it's a long process talaga before the actual work begins.
Yeah, and especially like if you're working as like, especially as a group. Actually, it depends also. Like some freelance work do like the weekly, like the hourly rate, while some are based on like output. So if it's output based, for example, to safeguard yourself, make sure there's a down payment before you start working. That's like one of like the things I would say. The hourly one, just make sure that you're logging it up correctly.
But how do they track? How do they track you? Is there like an app for that? For some?
Yeah, it depends on the client. For hourly, for example, there's like every hour which is attached to Asana. So basically, when you make a task in Asana and use every hour, it documents how much time you took for like each task. So I mean, there's like a lot of tools for that.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, sometimes they even go for manual, like, oh, just make sure you log it somewhere how much time you're taking on each task or something like that.
How about you, Ses? Like, how like is how you set up contracts with people different from poly ba? Or is it mostly the same way?
For think mostly the same way. Because I guess almost all of my freelance work has been with Poly. So we go through like the same meetings. Like we have a lot of after meeting deliberation or not deliberation naman, but discussing and understanding what what a client would want. So like Polly mentioned, it's really important to get the scope of what the project is, and then that's the only time I guess when you can give a value of how much you're supposed to charge. Because parang let's say the project is like design work lang pala. So obviously that's a different paid versus maybe a project with research, design, and development. So parang from your initial meeting, even before the client's brief, you have to just check. Parang I know all of these things already. So parang on your end, you know how much you're supposed to charge, how much time you're supposed to give, how are you supposed to balance them all. And then also, of course, understand what they want to do. Because sometimes, like Molly said, they go off scope. And that's like a headache, I swear, sometimes.
Pag hindi nasusunod yung napag-usapan.
Yeah.
So,
look at the brief. Look at the brief.
Yeah, you have the brief is really your proof. Parang this is what we talked about. This is what we agreed on.
Yeah.
So
So if you want more, it's sort of. For us, ours, since we're not an official entity yet, parang it's just a document for us. We can sign it and stuff like that. Yeah, pero it's just a document that we can refer to all throughout the whole timeline of the project. So yeah.
If they're asking if they're asking you to do something that wasn't originally parang agreed upon, right? So that's where you go.
Yeah.
That's when you learn how to put your foot down and look back. Sabi nga ni Polly, look back at the brief.
Hold up. If you want that, it's a separate discussion. Let's not get too ambitious. I mean, sometimes the request makes sense. It's something we should have taken into consideration. Yeah, but obviously, just if you're working as a team, you have to talk to them oh guys, let's design it, or oh yeah, we can add this on. It makes sense, but just always have a level of transparency with your client. So if it's something that you didn't get to consider but should have been there, and it's going to affect your timeline, just let them know, because they might have a hard deadline, but sometimes they might be a bit more flexible with it.
So if you don't mind us asking, can you give us a rough estimate of how much you earn as a freelancer? Doesn't have to be kahit one of your most recent works or whatever you're comfortable with naman. Para our listeners oh, this is how much they earn pala, baka I can make a side hustle out of it, ganun.
Yeah. What range can we give? But take for for my hourly rate as a UX researcher, I pin it up against the average hourly wage of UX researchers in the States, for example. It's not exactly the same, but it's pretty close. I mean, especially because if you're getting international clients, they were kind of, it's hard to say this, but they're kind of trying to lowball you usually if they're hiring. If they're hiring, let's say Filipinos, but if you have a degree of confidence of your background or of your skill, then you can try to pit against those numbers. You can go higher, you can go lower, you can try to make it the same and just see if they try to negotiate down and find your threshold. But it's nice to go above what your initial thought is, because you can give them room to negotiate. Yeah, so I'm just gonna say it's around that number, the average UX researcher in the States. Yeah. For our agency, Sas, how would you put it?
It depends. I can't really give a number either, because the way we charge is dependent on what we actually do on the project. So parang,
Yeah, that's
if
true.
it's a research and design lang, or research design development, then like the pricing will like change drastically actually. And then another factor that comes into that, like whether maybe for the design work we have, like we want to add branding into it pala, and illustration,
Yeah.
so that's plus pa. And then maybe like the timeline, that's a big factor. So obviously if it's a shorter timeline, very rushed, you gotta charge a bit higher, because like that's the cost of
Yeah.
your sanity, your
Because
rest,
it's your time.
parang,
It's your time then nauubos eh.
parang,
Yeah, like let's
Mhm.
just say like if it's the full suite, so let's say like branding and dev is also part, even with like a very considerate timeline, it's also the same as if you gave us a crunch work for design and dev, and that reaches already in the 6 digits.
Mhm.
I must say, like, being in the freelancing space, it gives you the chance to earn wages of other countries, right? Which is drastically greater. So that's something really nice, and you can do all of
Like-
this from your home, right? So
They're not only limited to people in our country, like so much opportunities out
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
mind blowing.
Yeah, I mean like
Kala
the harsher truth of that is that they're kind of banking. Some clients might be banking on lowballing you because they're trying to save. They're trying to save on the cost. That's why that might be why some international clients are trying to get you. But I guess like the harsh reality of being a freelancer, which is actually a privilege for us to not have to, is that some freelancers just like they have to accept the rate that they're given, even if it's not the rate that they're worth. So I mean, we can try to like upscale as much as we like, to build up our portfolio as much as we'd like, but we have to really like I guess like learn like not to like put down the experiences of other freelancers, and to actually try to help them you know take like these bigger chances and to place their rate to what they're really worth or something like that.
So in the freelancing space, no, how do you guys set yourselves apart? Because this is like a very competitive market, obviously, right? Especially here in the Philippines. But you're doing all of this while still being students, right? So, what's your edge? What would you say that gives you, like, what would you think is like the advantage that you have over other freelancers, even though you're still students right now? So maybe you could go first, Sess.
I guess for us, I guess it would be experience lang talaga. Like, I think that's what sets us apart. Because, like, we've been interns for a lot of companies now. We've handled a lot of org positions. We've worked on different client work and freelance projects. So that, I think, for us, like, that gives us more credibility. And I guess for us, like, the agency, we specialize in, like, different things. So, like, Poly is in research, I'm into design, and then C just into like no-code development and design systems and project management. So parang, if you're looking for something like to do like all in one, like from research to the development, then you can go to us. From like you have you don't have to look for different people. You don't have to look for you don't have to charge differently either. So parang you can get everything and anything you need in one spot. So I think that's what's really great about agencies. Like even like the official ones, like outside, like you don't have to pick random people. Like this is team already, and then they've had experience, they've learned it, they have a portfolio to show their credibility as well. So I guess that's it. For us, and then being students, though it does put us in like a disadvantage because like for students, they want to charge us less. They're really like that. But because I guess for our experience, we can charge a bit more than like a normal student rate because like we're currently employed. We're like already medyo in the same like level as other like professionals in the industry. So parang I guess that's an advantage that I guess me, Polly, and like Siege, like how we grew in a span of like just a few years. So yeah.
Like, masasabi niyo bang important factor na parang college graduate ka na pa mag-freelancing ka? Like, do most people look for like a degree na already? Or kahit people mainly look at their experiences muna?
I think experiences. I mean, though it's a plus naman na it's a degree. But I think a lot of like companies would like get students because they charge lower because you're students, you're not a professional yet. So it's like quite a disadvantage in all honesty as a student. But I guess another thing would be like you have internships, you have org work. Those are the experiences you have. Maybe they're even more than
Ayun yung
like a
edge niya.
professional. Yeah. I think
Yeah, I think that the two that go together that people kind of look for is experience, but to a degree they also do referral. So for example, like if you were like the client, if you knew someone or like if you knew someone who knew somebody who can already do the kind of work that you're looking for with a good quality, then that's already enough for them. And that's why like doing well in your clients is very important because you never know when that client will basically be your foot in the door to many more kinds of like referrals and clients down the road. So yeah, I mean definitely it's a different, I wouldn't say it's an edge, but like there's a different kind of context when you're hiring a freelance student as compared to like someone who's doing freelancing like graduate. Because I mean some people are freelancing full-time, some people are freelancing part-time, even if they have like a day job, even if they're graduated. So I think it's more important to them if there's someone to vouch for your work and if you have work to prove that. So portfolio, experience, but also referral.
The degree talaga doesn't matter that much compared to other industries where like you can't work talaga at all if you don't have a degree, right? Like hanggang internship lang yung makukuha mo if you don't have like the final diploma. But then in freelancing talaga it's just a plus lang talaga at the end of the day.
Yeah, it really comes down to like the industry, I would say.
Yeah.
But also depends on like the client. There will be some that prefer if you're graduated, and there will be some that will prefer like as long as you have work to show that's good.
So it really depends talaga. You can't say you don't have like one rule na parang because like I have a degree na a lot of clients
Mas angat.
really
Mas angat ako sa inyo. Ganon.
Yeah, I think it really is about more on the portfolio than the degree. The degree will help you get the experience to build up that portfolio. You wanna think about it that perspective.
Right. Makes sense naman in the context of freelancing. Yeah.
Okay, so we're off to the last part now of our interview. Like me, a freshie from ITE, talking to my seniors in ITE who are doing their thesis now. Like, what advice would you give to the ITE students and BYTE members in general? Like, who want to go into freelancing?
Steph?
Oh, okay. Sige. I can go
Anyone?
first.
Sorry.
Inagos yung
Alright.
bola.
It's like you go.
Kasi wala pa akong mabibigyan na advice.
Alright, hold on. Let me think. What's advice?
Let's go lang.
I guess my advice isn't just for freelancing or just like work in general, even org work, is that rest. like for someone who's like a workaholic, I swear, like a lot of positions, a lot of projects, a lot of client work. It's really like your output or the quality of work that you put out really changes if you're like burnt out or if you're like dead tired or like you're not in your best state. So I guess number one would be rest. Like just like if you're gonna go for something, you're gonna take on a responsibility, weigh out your options first. Like you have your academics, you have maybe your or work, your like, family life, social life. Like, if you want to add on to that, then, weigh it out. Like, if kaya mo ba, di mo ba kaya? Because, it's the cost of your health, your, like, brain power. Like, it's a lot. And it's a lot to take in, a lot of responsibility. But that's, like, something I think I had to learn the hard way. I never learned about, like, or never learned my mistakes of, like, overworking myself and taking on a lot of projects on top of each other pa. So yun, like, I learned lang, like in my third year na parang, okay, rest is very important. It really helps na, you're in your best state when you're working on different things. Because yeah, that's really important. That's one. Next would be just go for it. Like, it's scary. It's so scary to be, especially to be in the field. Like, I'm so introverted. Oh my god. Like, I cannot talk to, like, parang in the store, like if a saleswoman approaches you, I panic. Like, break down. Oh my god. Like, so, like, obviously, like, talking to clients, like, putting yourself out there is, like, so scary for me. But, like, I just took that, like, chance, that leap. I took a risk. Parang, because I guess I learned that you wouldn't know, like, or you wouldn't learn anything if you don't try it. Like, you don't lose anything if you try something. Parang, there
Pakapalan
are,
na lang ng mukha.
yeah, like, there may be bad or good experiences, but overall, it's a learning experience, and that's a plus thing, So, yeah, and I guess that. And I guess third would be know how to price yourself. Because, oh my god, when I started, mom, I don't know how to price myself. Sorry na lang, Sir Joven. Like, he tries to teach us in class talaga, but I, like, never understood it.
Oh yeah, there's a whole equation. It just flew over my
There's
head.
a whole equation.
There's a whole equation to price yourself.
Yeah, like the number of
Wow.
hours, etc.
Yeah.
You learn it in class. I'm not spoiling
You learn it in class, but, like, really, I didn't get it. Sorry, I'm bad at math. So, like, I can't do
Seth's
it.
okay with math. You're okay with math. I'm the one who's bad at math among the three of us.
That is true, but it's like it's yeah, I had to learn it. I actually learned it, like, this year lang, how to properly price myself. Like, ganito pala siya. Like, I know my worth now. I didn't know my worth then. Like, okay, new learnings, So, yeah, I guess those are my advice.
You can pass me back the ball now, Seth.
Tapo ni bola.
Okay, I think it's only like one, and actually 1.5. It would be to learn how to present yourself. Like, it just goes generally. You have to learn how to present yourself. I'm only lucky I went to drama school in my middle school years because my mom did that to me.
Oh.
Yeah, but, like, presenting yourself is very important, and just learning how to articulate yourself well. It's not just in terms of presenting your findings, because of course you need to drive. Yeah, you need to drive your decisions home. You need to make sense of the things that you're doing so the client understands and not just goes, oh, but, like, I think it's like this, or, like, oh, I think this is more important, like, oh, I think this one is, like, useless. Like, yeah. You have to learn to present yourself so that they can, I mean, to an extent, like, confidence helps you trust someone, right? Like, if someone were to be super, like, unconfident or something like that to you and you're the client, you'd be like, is this, like, a right idea? Like, it doesn't look like they know what they're doing. So even if it's just bola, you have to know how to present yourself. Like, I mean, not naman you should do bola, but, like, confidence goes, like, a long way. And it also comes to learning how to negotiate. So you can't, I was about to curse again, like, you can't be a weak person when it comes to freelancing. Like, you can't be weak when it comes to freelancing, because you're gonna deal with so many different clients, and not all of them are going to give you, like, the higher ceiling rate. So, like, negotiating comes with not just giving your low ball. You have to learn what's your low ball, mid ball, what's your high ball, and learning which numbers you should give out first. And if you're set on that, or if you actually have, like, a threshold of, yeah, they can negotiate, but only until this amount, and then if they go lower, wag na, ganun. So it's really important to, just really set your values straight, like your value as like a freelancer, but also like in terms of like your time. So yeah, just learning how to present yourself, learning how to negotiate, learn how to communicate. Literally like just those. The rest you can learn the rest you can like pick up as a skill. But these are like the soft skills that you definitely need if you want to stay strong-hearted as like a freelancer and to grow to like the value that you deserve.
Interesting. So before we guys let you go, I just have one last question. So going back to what Cess mentioned earlier, how do you know if you're going to say yes or no to a project? Or like you were saying kanina, the time management was pretty crucial nga, diba? If you wanna like balance out your life. But how would you know if like the project's for me or not? And if like from personal experience lang.
Okay, I can go first. Just understand what your bandwidth is. So especially if you're like a student, you're juggling a lot of responsibilities. And for me, I kind of like tell anyone who's trying to juggle several things at once, do not just look at things as how much time you take doing them, but also how much emotional weight they take for you to do. So for example, for me, I'm a researcher, which is kind of funny because I'm also an introvert. So if for example I'm doing interviews or focus group discussions or something like that, even if it's just like, let's say like 1 hour or 3 hours a day, emotionally it takes me like 2 days to recover. So yeah, like if you want to stay sane, try to understand not just your time but your emotional bandwidth. And if you can already foresee that it's going to take too much, like you can say, I can run 2 kinds of researches, but only one of them is a high bandwidth one. So for me, that means doing interviews or having to do focus group discussions, and just seeing your I'm not saying your life, but like seeing your calendar in the perspective of bandwidths, not just helps you gauge how much time you can give, but also how much emotional investment you can put into these projects. Even if you have time, if you know that you're gonna burn yourself out doing it, and you should try to rethink it.
Okay, great. So you're saying that it's really dependent on like your own personal mental fortitude, no? Yung the works that you'd agree to take on, you know.
Yeah, I like that word. Personal mental fortitude. How strong is your mind? But yeah, it's really that because everyone has their own bandwidth. Some people love, like I would say like extroverts don't have a high emotional bandwidth when it comes to interviews, but introverts do. And for example, if you gave me a document to write, for some people it'd be like, bro, that tires me out. Like for me, it's like it's a walk in the park. So it's also like understanding yourself. And after a few client works, you get to understand which takes up more bandwidth for you and which doesn't. Yeah. How about you, Seth?
For me, but the same, like my emotional bandwidth. Like, I learned everything the hard way. Like, I'm a type of person who just takes up just because, like, because it looks nice on the resume. That was what it originally like, and
Looks good on paper.
yeah,
The plight of the
paper.
ambitious.
Yeah. I feel like if you see like my org positions in one org, it's like 6 in a span of 2 years. It's like crazy.
It is.
Like so
Six.
it's very very like it cost me like my health, my sanity, my grades even. So parang like Wally mentioned, you really have to look at, I guess, what's important to you also. So obviously your health is important. Maybe your academics is important too. So it's parang prioritize it. Maybe naman.
I like how
You heard it.
Sorry, I am, but some people aren't. So yung ganon. Like there's
I'm
those
the aren't.
people parang,
Sorry.
that's why we match Polly. The good one. No, but yeah, like I guess for me it's prioritizing talaga, like knowing which one I want. So parang based on my goals also. Like if I want to reach this certain goal, like how will I adjust my whole life, like my whole life talaga, to like reach that
Google
goal.
Calendar.
Like what are the steps I have to take? So I can, whether it's like taking more projects, whether it's taking more having less sleep. But obviously don't accept things at the cost of like your most important things. So maybe your relationship with your friends, and your family, your social life, your health. Because really that's more important. You can do client work, you can do freelance work, and even take jobs after with your school. Because in all honesty, I don't think someone you can just drop school. Yeah.
We won't stop you, but like we're not advising you to.
We're not advising you.
We're not advising
This
you.
is
Don't
not
quote
an
us.
advice. Don't quote us.
Yeah.
No.
Disclaimer lang. Put
Don't
Like,
tell your parents we
Disclaimer.
said this.
honestly, just finish school and then do everything afterwards. Like, I think, you have your whole life ahead of you, Like,
Right.
just don't do it on the
Yeah.
cost of, your sanity, your rest time, your relationships with your friends, your social life. Because those are important, So, yun, parang
Yeah.
balance. Balance is the most important thing.
Okay, so thank you so much, Sasan Polly, for those advice that you gave us. And sana our listeners can grab, take note of it and apply it in their lives. And especially me, na freshie ako in ITE, I have like, dami ko pang pwedeng pagdaanan, dami ko pang pwedeng matutunan. And I appreciate everything that you gave us. And hopefully our listeners also appreciate the things that you said and take note of it. And before we end, we'd like to ask if you have anything to promote to our listeners, then you may do so now.
Okay, so if you have a community with advocacy you believe in and you happen to sell merch, then you should check out Murch with a U, so MURCH.shop if you're looking for a place to sell your merchandise that keeps your brand and also shows your products in a very smooth experience. So yeah, so that's
Check that out, guys.
Check that out. Make sure to check that out.
How about you, Sass? Do you have anything to promote?
I'd also like to promote Murch.shop.
Murch with a U, MURCH.shop.
.shop.
Ayun, support. I love it. And ayun, you heard from Sass and Polly themselves. Be sure to follow Murch on all their social media platforms now. And on behalf of BYTECAMP, we just wanted to say thank you very much, and we really appreciate all the insights that you've shared with us today. Thank you so much, Sass, Polly.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you.
And with this, our episode for today comes to an end. I learned so much about freelancing, especially when it came to how convenient it was for me as a student to start as a freelancer. I really love the part where Cess and Polly mentioned that freelance work tends to put a premium on experience over a degree. In some sense, this new way of working democratizes the opportunities available out there, as people who still have no degrees are able to find great job opportunities right now.
Actually, same here, Bradley. And I also really love the insights on knowing your worth as a freelancer, because it made me realize how freelancing also allows you to prioritize yourself and teaches you how to manage your work and commitments that you're trying to juggle. One more thing that I can take home from this talk is learning when to say yes and no. I mean, we're all human and we have our limits as individuals, and we need to understand the importance of taking care of yourself.
Thank you very much for tuning in to ByteCamp. And if you enjoyed this episode, make sure to like and follow Byte on Facebook, Instagram, and even LinkedIn.
Catch ByteCamp's next episode about teaching tech to oneself, featuring JM Erestain.
And stay tuned for more ByteCamp episodes, and stay updated on our Facebook page because you might just win some cool prizes.